Good afternoon or good morning, everybody. We just wrapped up another very productive week in the House. Even though it was a little shorter, we got some big things done. And as you all noticed, with a lot of the bills that we worked on, there was a real priority with focusing on the next generation. So the bill that we just worked on, the Senate Education Bill, added some provisions on there in I thought, a nice bipartisan way to enhance that education bill, provide more opportunities for more kids. So that was a big priority for us this week. And then the other bill that we made a priority this week with providing a lot of protections in place for the next generation for kids. So that's been the big priority this week, and I think we delivered on a lot of those priorities that we've made and promises that we made over the course of this session. So with that, I'll take any questions.
So there's been a capital gains tax bill that came back from the Senate, been waiting on the calendar for a motion. The Ways and Means Committee has revised the Senate bill to include the flat tax, capital gains, and some other things. What's the delay on the 594, the capital gains bill? Are you pointing now towards this other bill as the main vehicle?
So I think there's a few things going on with the overall tax conversation this session. So yes, you are correct. We have been hanging on to that bill for a little while, the House bill, to preserve options as we go into these last 3 weeks of session. And yes, we have some Senate bills that are also dealing with taxation issues. One of those will likely be on the floor next week. That's going to have some things added to it. So I think at this point in the session, we don't want to put all of our eggs in any one basket. We want to continue to work on capital gains as well as the other tax issues that we've been working on. But at this point, we're not putting all of our eggs in one particular bill. We want to preserve options in these last 3 weeks.
Is that because of getting the flat tax enacted this year is the priority move on taxation, and capital gains is like, well, if we can't get the one done, we'll get the other one done?
At this point, I think we'd like to do both. We just want to see what opportunities we have over these last 3 weeks of session.
Okay.
So the Senate a few weeks ago sent over the Senate Bill 35. It's the Downtown and Rural Revitalization Act. I'm not sure if you had a chance to look at that at all, or have you looked at that bill, or have any thoughts on it?
So I know that bill has been
voted out of committee.
that's right. It's in committee. So I haven't spent a lot of time going through, poring over the language since it's still in committee, but keeping an eye on it.
So is it something you're open-minded to getting through this session? Do you have any kind of initial qualms with it, or still kind of?
I would say it has a very high price tag, so that's a consideration.
Speaking of delays, I was curious, there hasn't been much progress made on Representative Gallick's or Representative Sharp's bills to create an assistance program for sports and event venues. And I was curious why so little action on that?
I'm not entirely sure the exact bill numbers you're referring to. So those, if they are out there, I'm not sure that I have those in my possession just yet. I will take a look at those. But as of now, that's not something that I've spent a lot of time looking at. Haven't heard a lot about those particular bills that you just mentioned.
So last week, I spoke with the speaker a little bit about kind of what seems to be a centerward shift for the Republican Party here in Missouri. And I feel like we saw that again today because there were some members of the party that were very adamantly opposed to the raising of the age of marriage, but the party as a whole seems to have shifted on that maybe from where they were before when they had initially passed that bill several years ago. So has that been more of a concerted effort top down in the party, or is this more of an organic grassroots?
So I would say the answer is more broad than that. I think the Republican Party is a big tent party. We have a lot of diverse ideas. We have a lot of different philosophical views. We represent a lot of different constituencies, whether you're talking about rural or more suburban districts like mine, for example. So we just have a diverse array of thought within our own party. And I think that you see that reflected in the bills that we work on. And I think that's something that we as House leadership embrace that.
What's the plan for next week? Any particular things you're hoping to get done?
Sure. So next week, obviously, 3 weeks left before the end of session. I think you're going to see more time spent on Senate bills. Over the past couple weeks, we've done a handful of afternoons where we've perfected some House bills, giving members some opportunities to present their ideas, their bills on the floor. But I think as we head into these next 3 weeks, you're going to see mostly focus on working on Senate bills.
The Senate's going to debate the budget next week. They've added considerable money for education. They cut the money for the Most Scholars program that the governor asked and the House approved. Then they've added 169 earmarks, cut 57 that were in the House. And the total, if they all get approved, would be in excess of $500 million of general revenue. How does the debate on taxes and the consideration of taxes play into the idea that there's a budget out there that is not going to be covered just by the revenue you have?
Well, I think, as you know, we are required to pass a balanced budget, and we are going to pass a balanced budget. This year, because of how we've operated the past 4 or 5 years, we've set aside a significant amount of money in a rainy day fund, so there's not any risk in us passing a budget that is not balanced. We are going to fulfill our constitutional obligations and pass a balanced budget.
We'll spend more than the current revenue by dipping into those accumulated surpluses. What do you think of the idea that there are so many earmarks? It's over 300 that have been added to the budget that the governor proposed. Is that a path forward for the future?
You know, I think that's always an issue. I think that what we will have happen this year is the same that happens every year, is we will go to conference. You always see a smaller House budget. You always see a larger budget pass out of the Senate. And when the two sides come together, you see typically something that meets in the middle. And I don't expect that this year would be any different.
One more question about the earmarks. Should members' names be attached to the requests that go into their districts or that they're asking for, if it's a particular program that like a vendor would have to provide? Should there be names attached to all those individual items?
You know, I think that would be kind of a messy process. That's not really something that you see happen in the budget with particular names. When you have members that want to offer amendments, then you would see those individual members do that. But I don't really see a real reason to have individual names attached to specific items in the budget.
Members of Congress, their requests are published on their websites generally. That's what I was thinking, is somehow where members were required to take ownership of these if they ask for it.
Yeah, and I think when you have members, what we see in practice is when you have members that bring home something for their district that they're proud of, most of the time those members will talk about that publicly. That's not usually something that they hide from.
Right, thanks.
I have a quick follow-up to that. So 50 million is in so far in the budget for the new nuclear reactor at Mizzou that I'm sure you've heard about. And the reactor is going to be very expensive, over $1 billion. And I was just wondering if sort of a advanced question, I guess, but like if you thought about in the future funding, giving that $50 million, annually, or do you think it'll be kind of a one-time contribution to that project?
I haven't had any specific conversations on that particular project. So I know the item is in there this year. I don't know as far as what commitments have been made by individuals in the legislature for future appropriations. But I would imagine that, like everything, that will be something that is reconsidered every year from now on as requests are continued to be brought to us. Thank you all. Appreciate your time. Have a good weekend.